You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Bo Polny of Gold2020Forecast.com. Welcome to the show, Bo.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you calling me out.
Today we're going to chat about how numerology fits into the equity market and how it might be used as a trendsetter. This hit the headlines recently when a video of Christine Lagarde, the head of the IMF, went viral, where she was giving a speech on numerology and the importance of the number 7. Bo, can you maybe tell us what that was all about?
Thanks. Actually, that was rather fascinating because when the video hit, I had many of my subscribers sending me the video, and I just couldn't believe that the head of the IMF is actually talking about numerology. Like, why would she be doing that? You really got to ask yourself the question, why somebody of her position would be talking about numbers, and especially on number 7. But she's correct. There is something very powerful about the number 7, and I'd like to just introduce a couple of very wild concepts, but they're true. I call them it's called like a law or the laws of 7, and this is something that everybody can relate to. Let's start with a handful of examples here. You've got a cluster of 5, and then 2 additional always adds up to 7. So let's look at multiple examples here. You've got human skin. You got 5 inner layers, 2 outer. The neck or human neck cervical spine has a total of 7 vertebrae. 5 cause flexion extension, and the other 2 at the top cause rotation for a total of 7. If you got 7 days in a week, you got 5 during the week and 2 on the weekends, total of 7. You've got colors of the rainbow, 5 primary and 2 bridge for a total of 7. The sound, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, starting off back at do, adds a total of 7. Surfers, when they surf, they count wave sets. I don't think you've ever heard wave sets. Well, there's the sets of 7. There are 7 cardinal sins. You've got 7 hills of Rome, 7 wonders of the world, and then this is really cool, is 7 oceans and 7 continents. And so why is the 7 so predominant in nature unless it's a part of nature, would be the best way to describe it. So I hope I've kind of give you a bit of an introduction there, Jim, on why she might have been talking about number 7.
Did people seem to be taking her seriously?
I listened to the interview again just before we did the interview. So I listened to it yesterday, and she what does she say? She said, in the year 2014, we're looking for a good year. We're hoping we have hope and all these things she was talking about, and she basically took a number 2014, cut that in half, and then she said that's 2 7s would equal 14. But the point was 2014 was supposed to be a good year for the markets. Well, was it? Absolutely it was. Okay. Many people last year were talking about the stock market crashing, and to all of my subscribers, I basically said it would not happen at all. I even did an interview in May of last year saying there would be no stock market crash in 2014. It was too early within the mathematical cycle. So going one step further, when you take the cycle further, we're going to, it applies to gold. It applies to the stock market. And I think in the next few minutes I'll try to illustrate that to you. But absolutely it ties into our world.
Well, you mentioned the gold cycle. Is it in a 7-year cycle, and where are we in that cycle?
So let's talk about gold, and thank you for the question. And again, what I would like is everybody listening to this interview just verify what I'm saying, because I'm just pointing these things out that I already know to be true, but I'm illustrating how it works. And so let's start with that. If we take 7 and we can cut that in half. Half of 7 is 3.5. Well, if you take 3.5 years, so half of 7 years is 3.5 years. And 3.5 years is exactly 42 months. And let's go back 3.5 years, or before, let's even do something more enjoyable. Let's start with November, the first week of November. So November 2014, week number 1, okay? We're going to go back exactly 3.5 years or 42 months, And where we're going to end up at is exactly, let me get that here, here. We're going to end up at exactly May 1st, 2011. On May 1st, 2011, something very, very special happened to all the gold and silver enthusiasts, is that silver was exactly a $49 top, and then it dropped. But it topped on May 1st. So May 1st, 42 months, or 3.5 years, ends up at exactly Monday, November 2nd, 2014. We then add 3 trading days. That would take us to exactly November 6th, 2014. And so 42 months plus 3 trading days equated to or ended up at November 6th, 2014, and gold bottomed at $1,130. Okay? That was half of a 7-year cycle plus 3 days. So now we're going to replay the same event one more time. Let's go when gold topped on precisely September 6th, 2011 at $1,923, and then it fell. Okay? So we're going to go precisely 42 months from that date forward, and we end up last Friday, March 6th, 2015. Okay? But the rule is we still need to add 3 days. Adding 3 days would be then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we end up to Wednesday. And today we are chatting on Wednesday, March 11th, 2015. And so as we're speaking, let me just check the markets, but gold had closed today roughly around 1154, down $7. So today was 1154, almost on a close, I believe, here for gold, and it's exactly 42 months plus 3 days from the prior top where gold had topped out at $1,900. So what that cycle now is telling us is that if history is to replay itself and the cycle is perfect, then we should see upwards price momentum and upwards price action beginning as early as tomorrow would be March 12th.
And so from that point, where are we on the gold cycle? I mean, I'm going back to, say, 2014 when you thought there might be a target for gold at around $2,000. That didn't happen. Now, is the cycle broken, or is it just the timing off?
Yeah, what I did was I actually made a big mistake. I was calculating it at 3 years, not 3.5, but I miscalculated because I was not looking at, I picked the wrong start point, and so what ended up happening was when you do the long-term counts, you're looking at every candlestick being a quarter, and a quarter's 4 months on the candlestick. So what ends up happening is the time just ends up being, I was too early. But the point being is that from that top of 2011, we're still looking for completion of a cycle forwards, and we're looking for still very large numbers in both gold and in silver. And I'm talking, very substantially large numbers, considering now from the cycle count, we should have completion. And completion actually is very interesting because for a cycle to complete, there has to be something special that should happen. Again, you want to use the word should happen. If a cycle is going to complete, there needs to be something unique about it. Okay? Well, what was unique about today? Going back on the gold count, gold had closed down today for the 8th consecutive trading day. It closed down like $7, at least what I'm seeing now, and that was the 8th consecutive trading day down. In the past 7 years, this has not happened. It has been 7 consecutive days down, twice that I was able to count in the past 3.5 years. And going back nearly 14 years, we've only had 7 consecutive days down, 4 times, and yesterday would have been the 5th. But now, since we have 8 trading days down, that is technically the first time that's happened in over 7 years. In terms of its occurrence. So that makes also today a very special and unique day in the overall gold cycle, and it's pretty fascinating that it ended on a 42-month cycle completion point. So I find today's market action fascinating and very, very critically important to the overall gold cycle moving forward.
Does the HUI, the Gold Miners Index, generally lead or follow the gold cycle?
The mining index leads. Okay, that's the best answer I can give you. And even more please go check. Anybody who is a trader or looking at the mining indexes, you will notice that gold did close down 8 consecutive days today. But what do the mining indexes do? They closed up. Okay, the Huey, GDX closed at 18.2. Is that 20? But the mining index is closed up today. So the answer is to your question, they typically lead, and usually by 1 day.
We'll have more with Bo Polny right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Bo Polny of Gold2020Forecast.com. Bo, do the Dow and the S&P 500 have noticeable cycles, and where do you think they are headed right now?
Jim, absolutely. They do have cycles just like gold. They are different, but yes, they have cycles all revolving around a number of 7. I have, for all my subscribers, provided long-term forecast. I have a cycle count that goes back over 250 years. Every 250 years backwards, forwards, there is a 21-year and a 42-year cycle that is replaying itself for cycle lows. And so you're able to find events that have happened within the world every 21, every 42 years that occur. And the next cycle low is bringing us into the year 2016, which means that the stock markets, in the world markets or the stock markets, need to be topping and rolling over in 2015 for a bottom that comes in the year 2016. The cycle bottom and the rollover points I currently have and I'm going to be providing to my subscribers, and then taking further the Dow cycle and the S&P cycle, that on a narrower time frame has a monthly cycle count of 7 months. My cycle count that I had on the Dow and the S&P topped out and ended on March 1st of 2015, which was 10 or so days, 11 days ago. And that was the timing point that would have ended the S&P and the Dow top. I emailed my subscribers saying that the top should be here. There's multiple cycles that are all overlapped. And then with that timing, you have anybody who's looked at the markets, the Dow and the S&P have dropped pretty substantially just this week. Just yesterday on March 10th, the Dow had closed over 330 points down. I do expect a reflex rally or a little bounce from here, possibly. May not, but I expect a bounce still from here, back up on the Dow in the near future. And then following that bounce, I think it's going to get very, very ugly before summer.
Turning to currency, the Swiss franc was pegged to the euro, and when they removed that connection, of course, the franc just skyrocketed. Now, China's yuan is pegged to the U.S. dollar. If China suddenly unhinged that connection, what would happen?
You'd have the 7-year cycle get going pretty aggressively. Remember, the cycle says that gold, if this is correct, should have a very substantial move and coming up here because a bottom has come in potentially. And so going forward, there are events that must happen. So when Swiss depegged from the euro, you have to ask the question, why can't another country do the same thing? Is that just a one-time event, or will there be multiple of those? So there are triggering events that are coming in our near future, but those events will trigger gold to move up, and that would, especially that would probably cause a dollar drop and a rise in the yuan.
And of course, I've been told that if the U.S. dollar peaks, when it's coming down, the currencies that you should look at are the euro, the Australian, and the Canadian dollars.
Well, they would be opposite trades. That's correct, because they're all paired. So you look at the opposite pair, and you're correct. It's all a race to the bottom. It's just one as one rises, others fall. But since we've had the dollar rising, and the dollar hit today 99.99, I believe might have gone higher, but I think that's the highest that I may have seen it. That's just talking off the top of my head. I didn't really check it, but that's what I heard from one of my subscribers. The point being is that we've got the dollar. We've got gold potentially finishing a cycle right here, and it's interesting looking at it. Again, I don't want to talk too specifically about currencies, but you gotta look at what's been going on right now. So it's rather fascinating. So I love where gold is at. I love what gold did today, and I'm excited for all the gold bugs here in the future.
Well, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Oh, my pleasure. And if there's any people out there or people that have heard this interview, what I have decided to do is in the near future for the next 2 weeks here, if somebody wants to send a email to me just saying, please send a 2-week cycle forecast, I will provide them with that, and we can watch what happens here together. And again, if they're interested beyond that, again, I do have a subscription service that they're more than welcome to sign up to.
What's the address for that site?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. My website is Gold 2020 Forecast, and my email is gold2020forecast@aol.com.
Thank you very much again, Bo.
My pleasure.
You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.